The night may be long and the dark may be deep, but the answers are there to be found. Whether it's the normal, the abnormal, or the paranormal, you're in the right place. Let's go beyond reality.
Welcome to the program. It's Beyond Reality. I'm your host, JV Johnson, and I am ready for tonight's show. In fact, tonight's show has been about a year in the making. Why a year, you ask? I know somebody's asking that. Because Ronny Dawson, our guest tonight, was on about a year ago, and we never got to finish his story. I mean, we got the gist of it. He's an alien contactee, an experiencer. A lot of new names for this stuff these days. But he was contacted by alien creatures. And when I say contacted, he was actually touched and manipulated. And he actually had an opportunity to travel to see what the home planet of these aliens looked like. And we had him on about a year ago, and as he was telling the story, we realized, wow, our time is up, and we did not get a lot of the details. So we will be getting those details tonight with Ronny Dawson. He traveled through a Stargate to see where these aliens came from. His first contact event started in 2010. That's when he first encountered these aliens. They invaded his home. They ransacked his home. They paralyzed him in his bed while they were doing this. And he'll explain all of it to you. He actually has some drawings of some of the things that he saw. We shared those last time, and we're going to share them again tonight. So it's going to be a great show. I'm excited about this. What I'm not excited about is this coronavirus stuff. You know, in the beginning of this, a lot of people were saying, oh, you know, don't get all crazy about this because the flu kills X number of people a year, and it's just another illness, and we have to learn how to deal with it. Well, that seemed very logical and very true at the time. Things are starting to change, and I'm not saying for me. In the reports I'm reading, there is much more concern about this virus than there was before. And a lot of it comes from the fact that if you look at what the Chinese government has been doing versus what they say, there's a real disparity between their words and their actions. And what I mean is they talk about things being under control. They talk about it not being very serious. Their numbers don't necessarily seem logical when it comes to cases, of people infected versus deaths. And then you see the images that are being mostly snuck out of China of them walking down streets and washing streets down with some type of viral killing liquids. And they're going through dragging people out of their homes, and they're building temporary hospitals that can accommodate tens of thousands of people. There's something that doesn't match up between the words of the Chinese government and their actions. Now, you add to that this whole idea that this coronavirus could have actually escaped from a Chinese biological weapons lab, the only one of which is in Wuhan, where this disease first showed up. That theory in itself started out as being, talked about in the conspiracy circles. It's still being talked about in the conspiracy circles, but there are now people in the U.S. government that are talking about it. There are now people internationally that are talking about it. So there is a lot to learn here yet. And one of the things that is being talked about here in the United States, first of all, I think it was like $1.15 billion has just been allocated by the U.S. government to handle what's coming from this coronavirus. Experts in the United States are now saying that a spread of the coronavirus in the U.S. is not a possibility anymore. It is absolutely certain. U.S. health officials are warning that this virus will spread more widely in the United States as they watch it happen in Europe and, of course, Asia. Italy is now a hot spot for this disease. There's a quote from Dr. Nancy Messonnier of the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and she says it's not so much a question of if this will happen anymore, but rather more of a question of exactly when it will happen and how many people in this country will have severe illness. So, nobody wants anybody to panic, of course. And I'm actually a little bit concerned, and this is rather selfish of myself, but I'm headed to Canada in a couple weeks. I've got an event out in Victoria, Canada. Anybody in the Pacific Northwest, close to Victoria, Canada, I will be there March 20th through the 22nd. And then on the 23rd of March, I hop on a plane and I go to Holland. And I'm going there because my son graduated from grad school, and he and I are going to do a little traveling, and then I'm going to help him come back to the United States. I'm a little bit concerned that there's going to be a travel ban in effect before that happens, and I won't be able to go. I don't know what happens in that case, and I don't know. I mean, of course, I'm worried about getting ill as well. I suppose everybody should be, but I'm going to probably be one of those guys with a mask on in the airplane. I mean, I'm going to be in an airplane for it'll be something like 12 hours for my travel from the West Coast all the way to Holland. But just the trip from the U.S. to Holland is like a 7-hour plane ride. And I am going to probably be the guy with the mask on, because who the heck knows, right? I don't care what I look like. I just do not want to be sick. And I'm worried about my son. He's already over there. I mean, I don't know that Holland has many cases, but if it's in Italy, there's not really anything to stop it from spreading into the rest of Europe. So anyway, be cautious, people. Especially if you're sick. Now, the problem with the coronavirus, it appears that you can you're contagious even when you're asymptomatic. When you don't have the symptoms yet, you can be spreading this. So it's really all right now about being in contact with people who have traveled. Be cautious. Wash your hands. Be safe. Keep your hands away from your face. All that stuff. We don't want this to become a problem. Now, the best thing that can happen, of course, is the weather can become warmer, and that tends to make these things die off. And we are right on the verge of that. I'm not saying it's happening here in the Northeast, in upstate New York. It's not. I mean, we had a 53 degrees actually yesterday. Felt like summer, I will tell you that. Today, back down into the 40s, which is still kind of warm. But I think we're looking for teens the next week or so. So it's not warming up here, but hopefully before this becomes too much of a problem, the temperatures will rise and it'll stop it in its tracks. That's what we can hope for. Anyway, I hope everybody's having a great night. Just looking ahead at what we've got coming up on the program, now that I've depressed you all. Tomorrow night, Jeff Jowett will be with us. We're going to talk about soul regression with Jeff. And then Thursday, we've got Robert Sullivan. He wants to chat about movie symbolism, the symbolism that can be found in many, many films, some classic films, some newer, more contemporary films. He says there's stuff in there we can find and see that relates to things that we all talk about. So that'll be interesting. And by the way, I just want to mention that I had an email exchange with our guest last night, Jeffrey Seelman, and he apologized, although it wasn't his fault, that we couldn't complete the interview. He's looking forward to coming back. And, the funny thing is I was just about to get into the demonic part of the conversation and pop. We lost everything here in the studio. Lost it all. It was gone for like 15 minutes. And then we came back, but at that point I couldn't get a hold of Jeff. Slick was trying, and I think he had no idea what was going on, so he just I think he hung it up for the night. But he's anxious to come back. He's anxious to come back and get back on the program, and we will have him back because it was a great discussion. I do want to mention that our chat room has a bunch of great people in it. Steph, thank you for the package. It arrived safely, and at the end of the program, I'm going to show off some of the things that you sent. Thank you so much for doing that. If you're looking for our chat room, it's very easy to find. It's part of our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search for JV Johnson. When you find that page or that channel, subscribe. Our numbers are going up. We've got a great community there. I love to see the number of people involved in our chat room climb steadily. And it has been, and that's terrific. And you can help us do that as well by sharing the page and the link and all that stuff with friends on social media. Let them know. We've got a great community of people here, and we have some really interesting discussions throughout the course of our weekly visits. Plus, we've got a back log of episodes. We've got, 550 or so back episodes on the YouTube channel that people can scroll through and find topics that interest them specifically. A lot of great stuff there. So we have to go to break, and when we come back, we will bring in our guest. Our guest, Ronny Dawson, is going to tell us his story about alien home invasion, alien contact, and travel through a Stargate. That's tonight's episode of Beyond Reality. Please support the program. Go to patreon.com/Johhaw. That's JOHAW. We've got a really great program tonight because we're excited to have our guest back with us. It was about a year ago that Ronnie Dawson came onto the show and told us about his story of alien contact and experience. And we had to kind of rush him along because we ran out of time. And we promised him at that point we were going to bring him back on so we could get into some more detail about his story. And then, of course, time goes by, and here we are a year later, and we finally had an opportunity to do this. Ronnie, welcome back to Beyond Reality. It's great to have you here tonight.
Yeah, thank you, JV. It's good to be here. It's always good to be on Beyond Reality Radio.
What have you been doing for the last year? Obviously we're going to get into your story, but what's been going on?
Yeah, I'm not one of those guys that goes around touring UFO conferences and stuff like that. I had an amazing encounter, but I'm just a regular Joe, man. I work for a living. I drive a crude oil transport truck. I still do that. I'm a father, and I have 3 kids, and so I'm at basketball games and everything else. So I'm busy.
Let me ask you this, and again, we're going to get into the story in its entirety in just a couple minutes here, but just in general, do you live your life differently now that you've had these experiences? Are you able to go out and enjoy things as you normally would?
It's tough. You don't realize that when for experiences, I had an amazing UFO alien encounter, but I still got to pay the rent or they shut my electricity off,
Yeah.
So,
but do you, do you like look over your shoulder? Are you worried, you're kind of looking around corners, out of the side of your eye to see who might be following you or watching you? You're looking up in the sky to see what might be up there looking down at you. I mean, is that going on? Or is it so second nature to you now that you don't even worry about that?
Every morning when I walk out of the house, I look up at the sky and I see that it's not full of UFOs, and I say, okay, it's not today. It's not today. But
tell us your background before the UFO encounter and the alien encounter. Who is or was Ronnie Dawson?
Yeah, I'm just a crude oil transport driver. I work for a living. I'm out here in some of the most rural locations in Texas. Some of the places I go are 10 miles off the highway. And I always thought my whole life, if there was anything going on out there, UFO or alien related, I would have came across it by now. So I was kind of a skeptic. I was more of a non-believer.
So you hadn't had anything happen to you prior to that point, and you considered yourself a skeptic and a non-believer.
Right. Yeah, for 20 years, I've been working nights out here in the middle of nowhere, and I hadn't seen anything. I've seen space shuttle reentries, and, everything I've seen at night could be explained. But that all changed about 2009.
Anybody else in your family, whether your parents or I don't know if you've got siblings or cousins or whatever it happens to be, any of those people prior to your experience, either A, believed and talked about this stuff, or maybe have had an experience themselves?
No, absolutely not. There was nothing like that. Nothing like that in my family. And you'd be criticized if you've seen something like that.
So your whole family was basically skeptical and non-believers.
Oh yes.
What about the community where you maybe grew up? Are you still in the same community that you grew up in?
Yes, yeah. I moved away for a long time and I worked at other places, but I came back here in 2006 after being away for about 20 years. And it's the same community I grew up in as a kid, and the same streets I walked as a child.
And was there any history of this type of thing going on in the community prior to your experience?
I don't remember a lot of UFO stuff going on down here, but not far from here, the Dublin, Texas had a UFO encounter way back in the 1800s. It was like they called it the first Roswell.
Yeah, that's right. Isn't there a gravesite nearby that has supposedly an alien body in it?
Yeah, I'm not all that far from Aurora. I'm within 80 miles of Aurora, Texas. Where all that went down.
But was that part of that same, quote-unquote, first Roswell encounter experience? Or was that something different?
This was not far from there, but it was a different encounter, but it wasn't too far from the same period of time, I'm about 45 miles from Stephenville, Texas, where they had a big encounter, too.
So there has been some activity there beyond your experience, over the course of time, but not enough that you'd say it's necessarily a hotbed of activity.
Yeah, it hasn't been like that, not around here, not that I remember growing up. We never seen anything like that.
Right. Okay, so then you're moving along. You're minding your own business. You're an oil field worker, working in the oil industry in Texas. Tell us what happened in the very beginning.
Well, first thing I noticed was that Stephenville had their big encounter, and it was about a year after that, and I didn't see anything that night, but. And I was working nights out here, and I started seeing lights moving about the trees that were odd, that couldn't be explained, and then they would just blink out and go away. And at one point, I seen one appear out over a field. It dropped down to the field about 200 feet, sat there for a second, and then it popped up 200 feet to the same point it was at before it descended, and then another one joined it, and both of them blinked out together. So I was seeing some stuff out here that was just freaking me out that I couldn't explain, and no reason for anything to be out there like that.
So you're looking out into the field, you're seeing lights. First you see them in the sky, you see them come down to the field. Did it scare you?
No, I was just really curious as to what in the world that could be, because this is out in the middle of nowhere. There's nobody around here today flying drones or anything like that. No farmhouses, ranch houses, anything like that. And so there just wasn't any excuse for any lights to be out there. And I'm an RC pilot myself. You wouldn't want to put anything out there at night like that. You'd just lose it.
Right.
You would.
Right. So this is happening. How big was what you were seeing? Was it large, or was it? You mentioned drone. Obviously, if it was to be confused with a drone, it wouldn't have been very big. So what size was it?
Oh, these things weren't very illuminated. They were just one light that was floating about the trees. It was a very dim light, but a pretty good size light. And I don't believe it was a crowd. I was beginning to think that maybe it was some kind of an alien drone or something like that, some kind of exploration drone that they were using or something. So, but I was just really curious as to what it was. I wasn't that afraid of it. I was just I was amazed by it.
So what you're saying is that you saw these things. You said you didn't think they were a craft per se. You thought they might have been some type of probe or alien exploration drone, I think is what you said. Yeah,
it's way too small to be any kind of a UFO craft that would have people in it. I mean, these things, couldn't be. They looked like they were from 2 to 4 feet big, and there's no way anybody could be in one of those. I mean, they were very small.
Did they make a noise?
I wasn't concerned about it being a UFO itself.
Did they make a noise?
No, there was absolutely no noise, and I called a MUFON guy, and he drove out there, and he spent the night out there, and one of them passed over his head. And he called me up going, oh, my God, one of them just went right over the top of my head. I don't know what that is.
You're getting a little bit ahead of us here, I think. So you witnessed this. This was the first night of encounter you had, right?
Yeah, that was some of the first stuff I was seeing. The first really amazing thing I seen was a cattle abduction.
That was prior to seeing these drones?
That was after seeing these
drones. Okay. So the night you're seeing these whatever they were, you think they might have been some type of probe or a drone from the aliens exploring. Were they? Did you get the sense they were looking for you or looking at you, maybe observing you personally?
I know they never got really close. They never passed right over my head. They always stayed within 100 yards of me. They floated just above the treetops, and then they would just go out.
How long did this whole thing go on for?
It was probably for at least a couple of months, I'm thinking, because you couldn't go out there. I worked only 2 nights a week, Wednesday and Thursday night, and I remember going out there, and you couldn't go out there on Wednesday and Thursday night and not see something odd like that.
So it was happening every Wednesday or Thursday night?
Yeah, every time I'm out there at night, I would see these things, and it was just really weird.
Did you ever have anybody with you that also saw them?
I talked to a lot of people, and they said, "Oh yeah, we're seeing them." Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of farmers and ranchers and people around there were seeing them, but everybody had their own excuse. One guy was sure they were military helicopters performing night maneuvers. And I'm like, helicopters, you can hear them. They're noisy things.
That's right.
This thing made no noise whatsoever.
That's right. So you said that after this happened, you contacted MUFON. What happened when you contacted MUFON?
I contacted MUFON every time I seen one, and I filled out a report. And then, I was some of the reports. I had some close friends, telling me, you got to be careful, man. You're going to lose your job, if the wrong people hear about you. You're driving an oil transport, you're seeing stuff like that. It's not the kind of guy somebody wants driving their truck. Said, man, you need to be real careful about who you're telling about this. And so I was when I put a report out there, I was more or less just trying to see if anybody else was seeing it and just indicating that I had seen something and hoping somebody else would let me know that they'd seen it as well. It was really the whole reason I was filing the MUFON report.
So
I knew there wasn't really enough evidence for anything to come of it.
Yeah, you wanted it on record, and you also wanted to see if anybody else might be experiencing the same thing. So you could get some validation, right? Because you're probably scratching your head saying, am I really seeing what I think I'm seeing? And can it be explained by something more conventional than what I'm starting to think it is? I mean, you're looking for some kind of validation.
Right, and MUFON's challenging me to get some pictures, and so I started carrying a camera in the truck, and making sure the batteries were ready to go, and I found out, man, these things are hard to get a picture of because it's almost like they're watching you. As soon as you pull, they'll let you sit there and watch them. And as soon as you pull your camera, you grab your electronic device, man, they blink out and they don't come back.
So you said that a MUFON investigator actually came and spent the night?
Yeah, he came and stayed in his vehicle out there and investigated because I'd filed so many reports in that area. Is in the area between Cisco, Texas, and Rising Star, and he actually came out there and he said he spent all night in his vehicle checking things out in that area. Mm-hmm. And then he called me the next day and he said one passed right over the top of his head.
So he had an experience as well.
Right. Yes.
Is this something, your reports and maybe his follow-up investigation, are those things that are available publicly on the MUFON website or anything, or are they private?
I mean, most of the MUFON is really good about cataloging sightings. They're not. I don't think they're that good at researching. Or at least the area that I'm in, I wasn't too impressed with the research and follow that they did. They are very good at cataloging sightings, and it is accessible to anyone, which is.
So can someone log on or go to the MUFON website and look up, I don't know, maybe it's by your name, Ronnie Dawson, or maybe the town, and see your reports and maybe see the reports of the guy, the investigator that was there, or not?
Yeah, they won't release your name. They keep all that private, but you can look in the area. You can research it by the area. You can research it by the date. And see what else has been going on in that area. Okay, so
everybody else so you had this introduction. It's kind of a benign introduction. You see some stuff, but you're not bothered by it. You're not approached or touched or whatever. You just had what a lot of people have is some kind of visual encounter, and you see some strange lights in the sky. Not sure how to explain it. What happens next?
Right. Well, the most amazing thing I had seen yet occurred. I was traveling south to Cisco, Texas, in my crude oil transport truck, going after a load down there, and all of a sudden, there was some lights came over the highway down up ahead of me, and then there was like 9 of them all together. And
when you say 9,
huge lights.
When you say 9 of them, you don't mean 9 of the smaller drone things that you're seeing. They were bigger than this.
Oh yeah, these lights were pretty high up in the sky, and they were dim lights, but they were huge, giant lights. And I mean, they had to be the size of a car. The lights itself are larger, and it seemed like it wasn't really a light. It was like something that was lit up, shining something else.
You're breaking up. You're breaking up a little bit on us here, Ronnie. I don't know if you're moving around the house or not, but you said it wasn't like it was just a light. It was like a light lighting up something else. Is that what you said?
Yeah, it was illumination shining out of something, like a porthole opening.
Oh, I see.
It appeared to be.
I see. And you said there were 9 of these craft?
Yeah, 9. There was 9 of these lights, and they were stretched across an area of the sky that probably. It had to be a half mile long. And then 3 of them broke off from the main part of the craft and started descending towards the ground. And I was traveling down the highway looking at all this, and I actually started getting up underneath the big craft where I couldn't see the lights. You could not see me. You just couldn't see my point anymore. So I was driven under it.
All right. Again, you're breaking up a little bit on us. So you were approaching, you were heading in the direction. You kind of got under one of the larger craft, and you said you couldn't really see the craft because of the way the light was?
Yeah, it was almost like I had driven up underneath it, and I could no longer see the lights. I could see the three that broke off from the craft and had traveled to my left off out into the field, over the field. But I could not see the other 6 lights that should have been directly overhead.
Could you tell what they were doing? Were they engaged in some kind of activity, or do you think they were just hovering there?
This big old huge thing was just hovering there in the sky. And the 3 that broke off, they traveled over to the field, and I was getting closer to the location of this thing, and I was watching it out of my driver's side window, and I rolled my window down so I could see it better, and it hovered down to the field, and then it stopped, and it traveled fairly quickly over to this location. This blue beam shot out of the craft. And it wasn't bright blue. It was just a dark blue beam that was shining down the ground. It was bright enough that you could see that it was a beam coming out of the craft, but it wasn't like a spotlight or anything like that. And then on the ground there was like a fluorescent glowing humanoid, looking like a person with a bobblehead out in the field, and it had this weird yellow green light glowing brightly around it. And I was observing all this out of my truck window and just freaking the heck out, trying to figure out whether I should stop or not. And I was thinking about stopping and just observing it all. And then all of a sudden, in the blue beam, I saw something about 30 feet up in the air, and it was dark. It was dark blue because it was inside the blue beam, and it was darker than the beam itself, and I couldn't really get focused on it. And then all of a sudden, I did focus. I could see it. It was a cow, and it was suspended 30 feet in the air, and it was whipping its head from side to side and being lifted.
Oh, wow.
And when I seen that, all thoughts of stopping and observing this went away.
Yeah,
I just wanted to I thought I'll be next if I hang around here. And it was a confirmation to me that what I was thinking that these lights weren't from around here were probably accurate. It's nothing, it's not nothing that you could explain. So I'm pretty sure E.T. was involved in it.
Yeah. I don't have any knowledge of any reports of U.S. military craft suspending cows and bringing them up into their ships. Doesn't make any sense. So clearly it was something non-terrestrial. But what? So you see this now. All of a sudden you're concerned because, as you just said, you thought if you hung around there you could be next. So what do? Just hightail it out of there?
Yeah, I didn't even want to look out of my window anymore after I seen the cow. And you have to understand the way the cow was being lifted. It wasn't flat going up, and it wasn't. If you harpoon a cow, it's going to be like, it's so heavy, it's just going to be like dead weight hanging from a cable.
Right.
This thing was. It was kind of like it was the way it was floating up, man. It was like it wasn't flat, but it wasn't like it was harpooned or anything like that. The head was down, and the back part of the cow was up, but it wasn't straight up and down like it would be if you had roped it or hung it or something like that, because the cows are that heavy.
Yeah, they're big, heavy animals for sure. So you got the impression that whatever force was being used to lift this cow up into this craft was basically surrounding the cow and lifting the whole thing.
Yeah, it was lifting it up, and it certainly wasn't. Gravity was no effect on it because of the way it was being lifted. It was, you could just tell that it wasn't hard. If you harpooned it, it would just look like a teardrop because they were so heavy.
Right.
That's just not what it looked like. It was the way it was floating up and the way the cow was moving his head from side to side. He couldn't have whipped his head like that.
So after the fact, if we fast forward a day or two, were there any reports of cattle mutilations or anything like that?
Yeah, I was amazed because there's people live around there, and I was looking at the movement report, so I was hoping somebody had seen something. There's a church up the road. There was a good bit of traffic, but most of the traffic stopped when I got to the church. It was like that was where everybody was going. So once I got just south of the church, the highway was really lonely down there. I would have been really happy to see somebody else down there. So, I looked at the different reports hoping somebody else had seen.
Yeah, but what about just in general, like local newspaper or anything? Any reports of farmers missing cattle or anything? Nothing, huh?
Yeah, I was so disappointed, just to see something like that and then not have anybody be able to verify it and back it up with you. And I was looking for an accident camera in my truck while all this was going on, too. And I was driving a spare truck that didn't have one in it, unfortunately. because I was really wanting to get photographic evidence of this.
Sure. Yeah, that's what people want most. And Ronnie, you told us your first experience, you saw some things in the distance. They kind of looked like drones. They had some lights. Your second experience involves much larger craft and what appears to be the abduction of a cow, of some type of cattle being pulled up into a larger craft. You become concerned, obviously. You don't want to be the next thing pulled into that craft. You take off. What happens next in your story?
Well, I head out there and I look and check in my mirrors, making sure nothing's following me. So I'm just getting out of there, and I started telling some people about it, and man, people just criticize you and like, man, what?
Sure, yeah.
And I'm like, man, to see something like that and then not be able to talk about it is frustrating, But luckily, I had some friends that I can talk to and talked about it, and they kind of halfway believed me.
Now, wait, but let me back you up again, Ronnie. So this was in 2010. Is that when this was happening?
Yeah, it's probably closer to 2009, I think.
2009. Okay. So it wasn't that long ago. It seems to me that some of these discussions have become a little bit more acceptable. More people are willing to listen to this and actually believe and have an open mind now than maybe even 10 years ago, which is about what we're talking about. Have you found that to be true, that people are more willing to accept what you're saying now?
Oh, yes, absolutely. It's really opened up, here lately. And it's nice because, it's something that needs to be talked about. And it's, at some point I made a decision, that what I've seen and what I've experienced is more important than my job even.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would be doing a disservice to every person on earth to sit and not say what I'd seen. And in fact, and then I thought, something really bad went down, like an alien invasion, I would feel really guilty and have to live with that because I knew for a fact that they were here and I didn't say anything. So I didn't want to go through that.
Let me ease your mind a little bit. If we actually end up having an alien invasion, I don't think you have to worry about being guilty about anything, Ronnie. I think at that point there's going to be a lot bigger fish to fry, if you will. So you get out of there that night. You try to tell some friends about this experience. You're kind of being laughed at a little bit, or not believed for sure. What happens next to you, Ronnie?
Well, yeah, and I keep gathering, trying to get, I started carrying I had a phone, and then, and I noticed that I had some opportunities that I'd seen some other stuff too, You
had the encounter with the small probing type device, craft drones, if you will. Then you had the bigger experience where you saw larger ships and you saw 9 different lights, and you saw the cow being raised up into what would be considered the larger ship. You kind of left the area. You tried to communicate this to people, and people didn't believe your story so much. What happens to you next, Ronnie?
My next contact was I'd seen a daylight sighting, and I didn't think it was a craft. I was coming out of this lease location down here south of Ranger, Texas, down in Palo Pinto County, and there's a rural ranch house down here. It's almost like nobody lives there anymore. It's kind of like a vacation home on private property. And I'm traveling by this thing, and it looked like it might be on fire because there's this huge black cloud of smoke hovering above the house. And once I got closer to the place, I seen that there's a big black hazy looking craft was hovering over this house. And then all of a sudden 4 big old white lights came on inside the black, like I had seen before on some of the other craft, huge areas of illumination shining out of what seemed like porthole windows.
Right.
And this thing actually takes off, and it's running down the road ahead of me. It's almost like I'm chasing it in my truck. And I got a camera with me, and I'm grabbing this camera up. And this thing, I know it had charged batteries and everything. And the lens extended on it, and the thing froze up, and it hadn't worked since.
Oh,
jeez. I still have the camera, and I was just frustrated to beat all heck. And this thing just was ahead of me, and I was following it. But the thing about this sighting was this was the third sighting, or the second sighting in a 7-day period.
Right. So you decide you're going to go, you get a buddy, you decide you're going to go out and actually do some UFO hunting, for lack of a better term. And you bring a laser?
Yeah, I got this 250 milliwatt a green laser. It's like it's a little bit more powerful than a classroom laser. It shoots a green beam for about 5 miles, and my thinking was I wanted to get my buddy to video record me. If we see a UFO, I want to shoot this laser around the craft, and I'm thinking that if the alien craft propulsion system bends time and space, or bends space, that a laser beam light should appear to bend. I was trying to think outside the box.
Yeah, of course. But why? I mean, that's quite a leap, because I'm not sure that I would have gone there yet. I mean, I would have been more interested in just trying to get a picture or something. But you're already thinking about the propulsion system.
Yeah, I'm getting frustrated because I'm posting some of this stuff in forums and stuff like that, and people are just say, "All you're ever going to see is lights in the darkness," and that don't prove anything. You know, it could be a street light, it could be anything. You know, so to get some real hard evidence, you got to do something. You got to think outside the box. You know.
So you and a buddy go out there. Your buddy's got a video recorder, a video camera, and you've got this laser. What happens?
And I wasn't the first one to see it. My buddy was actually, he goes, "Hey," he goes, "look at that." He said, "Is that what you're talking about?" I looked over there, and there was like a 4-light craft that came on. It was probably about 300 to 400 yards from us. And I was like, that's exactly, it looked like the same craft that I had seen in the afternoon over that rural farm home. And I said, that's it. That's what we're looking at. And I grabbed my laser and I fired it around the craft. And then kind of a sense of fear hit me. I thought, if these guys misinterpret what I'm doing with this laser, this may not go well for us. We may be 2 piles of ashes laying next to this guy's house, So I kind of sent a shock of fear through me. And I shined the laser around the craft. Unfortunately, I didn't see the beam deviation that I was hoping to catch. And then I had the courage. I thought, I really want to shine this thing on the surface of the craft. So I shined it on the surface of the craft to see if it would reflect or give me an idea of more about the structure of this thing, or how, if it's going to reflect the light like a mirror, if it's going to absorb it.
Right.
And I shined it on the craft, and it just absorbed the light. As soon as the laser went right to the craft, and then it just stopped dead cold. It didn't even a reflection, like if you shine it on the side of a car, it would shine more than what it did on this thing. It was like this thing absorbed every bit of the laser.
Wow. What's your buddy doing during this? What's your buddy doing? Is he videotaping it?
Well, I'm sitting there. I shined the laser light on it, and they didn't fire anything back at me. And I said, I looked over at him, and I said, I hope you're catching all this on video. And I look at him, and he's standing there with his hands on his hip, and his mouth is wide open, and he's just gawking at this thing. And he's never seen a UFO before, so I guess he just froze in the moment, and he never paid the camera any attention. Never thought about getting a picture. And I said, Alan, my God, man, grab the camera. And he thought, oh, the camera. And he started grabbing the camera, trying to get it up and running. And I was over there trying to help him get it up and running. And then I looked back at the thing, and it just blinked completely out. It just gone.
So this is kind of the beginning of when things start to get weird for you, right?
Oh yeah, that's and I thought, well, they're gone. We missed them. Missed another opportunity. Frustrating as I was, we had a really good opportunity this night.
Yeah,
and didn't catch it. 2 of us, but at least I did feel good that I had another person that actually seen it.
Sure.
Apparently they don't like it when you shine lasers on their craft, because the next night they paid me a little visit in my home here in Ranger, Texas. I came home and I'd had the laser out. I think I actually shined the laser in my backyard before going to bed that night. But the first thing that happened was when I came home that day, there was a big hole in my floor, and
so when you came home the night of actually having this encounter and shining the laser, there was a hole in your floor that night?
The next night, yeah.
The next night. Okay.
Yeah, it was the next night. When I came, I think I had worked that day, I think, and then when I had come home, I have a indoor house cat, and when the cat's missing, he's gone. So I start looking around the house for him, and all of a sudden I see this big hole clawed in the floor of one of my bathrooms. So I'm thinking, my God, the cat done chewed a hole in my floor, and he clawed through there, and he's underneath the house.
Right.
And I called the cat, and I could hear him meowing up underneath there, and I shined my light up down in the hole, and I never could see him, but I could hear him. And it sounded like he was close. So it's some reason I reached my hand off down in the hole, and I was trying to feel around for him. And I pulled my hand back up out of the hole, and I looked up down in there, and I could see some eyes staring up at me through the hole. But it didn't. It was scary looking eyes. It didn't look like cat's eyes. And I'm thinking, my God, you're crazy for sticking your hand in that hole. God knows what's down there. Could be anything, and not just a cat. You know?
Right. Did you shine a light in there in that crawl space to see if you could figure out what the eyes were that you had seen, or did you assume at that point it was the cat?
No, at that point, I had the opportunity to grab the cat, so I just grabbed the cat, and so I didn't want to do anything but just grab the cat and secure the underneath the house.
Right, right. So you have the cat, you've got the hole sealed up. What happens next?
I go to bed, and I no sooner go to bed and I lay down and get my feet up off the floor, and all of a sudden I start hearing stuff breaking in the kitchen, and I'm thinking it sounds like dishes being knocked over, and I'm like, oh my God, this cat is just really making me angry tonight, man. So I decided I'm going to get up out of bed and go see what this daggum cat is getting into. And I noticed when I tried to get up out of bed, I didn't feel anything, but I could not move. I was pinned to that bed. It was like a 600 pounds of sand had like put on my shoulders.
So you were trying to get up out of bed, but you couldn't move.
Yeah, I could not feel anything hold me in place.
But you couldn't move.
But every time I tried to use my muscles to like lift up out of bed to stand up, it was like you could just feel this force just immediately, just like, it's like holding you in place. It was like, I hear cabinet doors opening. Now, my cat can knock stuff over, but he can't open cabinet doors. I hear cabinet doors opening. I hear drawers being pulled out. And I'm thinking there's somebody or something in the house. Where I'm at in the bed, I can see through the door, and something small streaked by the door. I mean, I haven't seen anything move. All it was a blur moved by the doorway. It just shot by so quickly that you couldn't even tell what it was. It was just something brownish looking that streaked by. And all of a sudden, this thing, streaks by again. And then all of a sudden, this thing, it does something at this point that just completely trips me out. It runs across my vertical wall. So it runs
in the bedroom?
In the living room.
In the living room. Okay.
Yeah. Then all of a sudden there was another one, and there's another one ran by because I seen them both run by at the same, at close proximity of each other. And I think, okay, there's two now. There's two of them in there running around. They're traveling so fast I can't see what they are. I know they're probably about 18 inches tall. They're not even like 3 or 4 feet tall. These things, it's got to be like 2 feet or less. And these things, they're running. They look like they're running on all fours to me, not on standing on two legs. And they certainly don't look humanoid from what I'm seeing.
So how long is this going on for? Is this like seconds or minutes or half hour? How long is
this is probably going on for a few minutes. So
okay.
I'm sitting here watching and listening.
You can't move and all this stuff is happening. There's two of these creatures, whatever they are, running around your living room, knocking things over, upsetting things in the living room. Do they end up coming in the bedroom?
Well, one of them running. There's a third one came into the scene.
Okay.
And he came in on all fours. It looked like a blur coming in, and he stopped dead right in the doorway of the bedroom. As soon as he stopped moving, I could see him clearly, and he reared up from all fours and stood on his back legs. And this thing, it looked like it had a humanoid looking head, but its arms almost looked like some kind of an insect arms, and it had like an exoskeleton body armor on it that had, even the armor itself was like a reddish kind of a maroon color, and it had thorn appendages sticking off of it. Like if you grabbed this thing, it would hurt your hands because it was like these sharp thorn looking things on it. And this thing stood up on all two, and he looked over at the other two as if to scold them. And I didn't hear him make any noises, but all of a sudden they quit running around and started doing more searching. And they started opening, every cabinet, every drawer in the whole house was opened up.
Wow.
And the next thing I know, all three of them came through the door at a blinding speed. All three of them they jetted underneath the bed. I seen them run up underneath the bed, and the bed started bouncing up off the floor. And at times it was like being picked up with me on it. And I was a big boy at that time. I was probably 280 pounds. They were picking me, the bed frame, the bed board.
Were they doing this physically with their hands or whatever, some kind of limbs, or was it something they were doing more with some kind of psychic energy?
I don't know. They were underneath the bed, and I couldn't see how they were doing it. But the whole bed was being lifted, and then instead of falling back to the floor, it was almost like they were slamming it back to the floor. And I was just bouncing on the mattress on this thing, still unable to move. And then the cat freaks out, and the cat jumps off the bed, and he tears around the corner, and I could see him sliding around the corner, getting out of there so fast, you know. And I didn't see anything give chase to him, but I thought, well, I've been abandoned by my cat, you know. He didn't. I don't blame him. I'd have ran too, but I'm sitting here being bounced on this bed, and then all of a sudden they stopped bouncing the bed, and I start hearing them clawing at the underneath the bed.
They're clawing underneath the bed now?
Yeah, they're just clawing underneath the bed. You can hear the ripping of fabric, and then up underneath I don't know what's going on up underneath there, but later they rip through the box springs covers, and up underneath there you can see scratches in the wood. And I'm sitting there at this point, I'm just, you know, there for a long time, when you first see them, you're horrified. You're
sure
just terrified. But after you've been terrified long enough, you'd be surprised that you just might being terrified for long enough like that. Just it finally built into a rage, and I was like, I ain't gonna kill them, or they're gonna kill me. Somebody's gonna die here, and I decided I would fight loose from whatever was holding me, whatever it took. I would use every inch of strength that I had to bust loose, and I had a plan. There's a golf bag over in the corner, and I thought, I'm going to grab it, club out of that golf bag over there, and I'm going to kill me some dadgum aliens. And so all of a sudden I just used every bit of force I could have to fight this thing, and all of a sudden this time, that force that hit me, it affected my heart, it affected my breathing. It felt like it almost killed me.
So the harder you struggled, the more you felt the force, and the more aggressive the force was.
Yeah, before it was just like it was just holding me. It was enough force to hold me in place. But when I really fought it hard, I mean, it affected my breathing. It felt like my heart had trouble beating. And next thing I know, I hear them over there, and they're getting into the gun cabinet right next to the bed. Now, this gun cabinet is where the laser was being kept that I used the night before. Okay.
So are they banging at this thing? Are they like drilling through it? How are they getting into it?
All I hear them, somehow or another, it was locked. Somehow or another, they opened it. I mean, it was open, the top and the bottom. But see, I didn't know they had opened it. And all of a sudden, everything got quiet. I never seen them leave. I never seen. All of a sudden, man, my body jumped up out of that bed, and I screamed and cussed, and I grabbed that golf club out of that bag. And I had tried to do this like 5 minutes earlier.
Yeah.
You know, with no luck. Now, I'm doing it without even, I'm not wanting to, I'm not trying to, I'm not thinking about it. It just happened. It was like they had interfered with the signal that was being sent to my brain. And when they released me, that was the first thing that got processed in my body. And it was like my body was like a robot acting on its own. But the next thing I know, I'm really pissed off again. And I'm holding the golf club in my hand, and I'm determined to go on an alien hunt, which didn't seem like a bad idea at the time, so I just went with it. I went all through the house, searching the dark corners, and like I said, every cabinet, every drawer, and the whole house was open.
So they're gone, right? They're gone at this point. You don't find them anywhere.
Right. They're not. There's no sign
your
of
house. Your house is a wreck. I'm assuming the hole was still in the bathroom floor. They were clawing up under your bed through the box ring and all that. Did you take a minute and maybe take some pictures of any of this damage, or were you too freaked out?
I thought about taking pictures of the box springs, but I thought, you know what, man, ain't nobody people would just say my cat did it. It was just scratch marks in the wood. It was some bent wiring underneath. And, you know, it's not really going to prove anything to somebody who wants to be a skeptic and just confront you with it. And I had been through so much criticism from skeptics that I thought everything over and thought, it's absolutely pointless to do that. But if you remember the hole in the floor, I patched. I put 10 over and I put
screws in. I thought you were saying you patched the side of it. Okay, I gotcha. So,
yeah.
So did you determine that they had taken the laser?
No, the laser was actually, to my surprise, still in there.
Oh, it was still there. Okay.
And that 10 I had bolted to the floor in there was pulled up and even bent.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, man, you think about how much force it would take to pull some screws out of the floor and bend that 30-year 10, which is tough as all get out. and they pried it enough that they got out the same way they got in.
Yeah, we're going to end up if we're not careful here running out of time again, which is what happened to us last time. So let's move the story forward. So obviously that's an incredible experience by itself, but it doesn't end there for you, Ronnie. To move us down the storyboard a little further.
Right. I was doing some UFO videos with my buddy Alan, the same one the guy had seen up there, and all of a sudden, while we were doing a UFO video called "Man Escapes Alien Abduction" there on YouTube at 1:31 in the video, my buddy said, he goes, "Man, I swear to God, I just seen a ghost behind you." And I said, "What? Well, you were filming?" He goes, "Yeah, well, I was filming, dude. It was right next to your shoulder." And I'm going, when we looked and we couldn't see it, well, we posted the video on YouTube, and then all of a sudden people started seeing it, going, "Look, man, at 1:31, there's something odd." And I said, "That's it. That's what he was talking about."
When you say you were doing a UFO hunting or whatever, what were you were just out filming, and what was this that you were doing?
I was just doing a UFO video showing some of the pictures and stuff that I had captured in 2010 in the Coleman Counter UFO, which happened a year after the alien home invasion.
So you were showing this stuff, kind of doing a little video to show it off. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, I was doing a video to feature this stuff, and my buddy Alan, we were showing all this stuff in the video that I had captured down there, and all of a sudden this ghost-like thing, anomaly, appeared behind me.
And you look back and you couldn't see it, but viewers later, people who've watched it since, could identify the figure?
Right, you have to slow it down. You have to slow it down, and I've turned the brightness all the way up, and you can even look on there. Alien caught on the camera, extraterrestrial caught on camera on my YouTube channel.
All right,
Ronnie Dawson YouTube channel. You can see it.
It's there now. People can go to your YouTube channel and actually see this video.
Yeah, I've actually taken the piece of the video. The whole video's there, and then there's an excerpt called "Extraterrestrial Caught on Tape," and I turned the brightness all the way up. And you can see this thing moving around. Okay,
yeah, that's worth taking a look at. So now you've had these experiences, and at some point, don't you start to develop what you would consider to be a more friendly relationship with these beings?
Yes, like I said, they had never taken the time to introduce themselves or meet me face to face or anything like that. But I didn't think they ever would, because sometimes a year would go by without me seeing anything, and I would think, well, I don't guess I'll ever see anything like that again. So my hopes weren't real high that I might even see them again. But in August 2017, they completely blew me away with the firsthand contact, and it happened right here at my house in Ranger, Texas. I was working nights. I'd come home from working nights and I'd gone to bed, and this actually occurred about 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm dead asleep. I'm not dreaming. I'm completely out. All of a sudden, I had what was like a mini dream. There was like two females pulling on my arms for some reason, and then all of a sudden, I slipped out of their grasp and I fell back to sleep. And I thought, man, that was an odd little dream or whatever it was. And then I fell back to sleep, and all of a sudden, the same two females got me by the arms again, and they're pulling on me. And this time, they're pulling on me, and one of them says, "Help us." And I looked, I thought, oh my God, I must be stuck in the mud or stuck in a mud hole, a manhole or something. I'm stuck and I'm trying to get loose, and they're trying to help me. So I helped them to fight to get loose. And then all of a sudden I finally got loose from whatever was holding me. And then all of a sudden I realized I'm standing in my bedroom, and there was two females in there. And I'm like, and the first thing they start doing is apologizing for disturbing my rest. And they said they're from another world and we need to have a conversation with you. And I'm like, this is the oddest thing I've ever seen.
I don't know if you can even say that, Ronnie, because everything you've said so far has been very, very odd.
This is extremely freaky, because I'm thinking that some of my wife's friends are playing the practical joke on me regarding my UFO stuff. And then they told me, they said, we need to have a conversation with you. Said you're in a rift between your time and our, they said you're in a rift. You're in an alternate reality in a time rift, and your body's still sleeping peacefully in bed. I'm thinking, okay, girls, the jig is up. And I looked over there, and there was somebody sleeping in my bed, and I wanted to step forward and look down on my own face to make sure it was me, and then I realized that not standing beside my bed. I'm standing in my bed.
So this is kind of like an astral projection experience for you, right? I mean, you were some part of you was pulled out of your body.
Yeah, it's like my spiritual essence or a life force. Or
where did they take you, Ronnie?
They were standing there just having a conversation with me.
Okay.
And they were just happy to be there. And
what were they saying? What was the conversation about? I mean, that's not a normal circumstance. It's not like they were talking about the weather, I'm sure.
Right. And first thing they want to do is show me that, okay, you're apart from your body. Your body's there. You're all right. You're in no danger. We're not going to hurt you. They were just trying to calm me down. And I looked, and I kind of freaked out because I was standing in my bed up to my knees. And I had tried to walk over and look down at my own face in the bed to make sure it was me. And when I tried to take a step, I fell forward. I put my hand down to catch myself, and it landed on the sleeping body in the bed about the knee area. And I caught myself, and I was using it to not fall completely forward. And then all of a sudden, my hand went through my leg, and then it went completely through the bone and everything. And I could feel the softness of the mattress underneath my body. And I freaked out like, oh, my God. And I jumped back up, and both of them were grabbing me like I was drunk or something, and they weighed me out of my bed. And I looked, and sure enough, it's my body sleeping in the bed. And I turned around, I'm thinking, this is not a joke. And I look, and one of them is tall. She has short black hair. She has blue skin. She has a big ruby red, like glued to her right cheek. She has like a diamond glued to like her forehead, and she has like a tattoo on her left cheek. And the other one has big fluffy hair. She has a lot of muscle. She's really built, and you can see the tip of these like cat ears piercing through her hair.
Now, aren't these things that you drew? These are your drawings, right?
Yeah, that's my drawings. Because I talked to Yvonne Smith over in California. She said, Ronnie, she said, take the time to draw what you've seen to the best of your ability, so that the people, you couldn't get a picture of it, but show us what you saw. And it's not a great picture, and the female Catwoman is better looking than what I drew. I can't draw a good-looking female Catwoman. But
yeah,
get the gist.
I'm not sure that you want to become a fine artist anytime soon, Ronnie. I'm just going to say that.
No, I was just doing what Yvonne Smith had said, and draw what I saw to the best of my ability that I wasn't able to get a picture of. And this Catwoman, she was definitely humanoid, 2 arms, 2 legs, tall, very attractive looking until you looked at her face and forehead and eyes were attractive. But when you look at the tip of her nose, it turns into like a cat's mouth.
Okay.
And it even has whiskers, like she had trimmed the whiskers off on her upper lip, and they almost reminded me of porcupine quills.
Okay.
The way they stuck out. And I'm thinking, oh my God, okay, this is, these girls are really not from around here. This is not some kind of a practical joke.
I see like a forked tail on one of them. The cat-looking girl, was that what she had? A tail like that?
Yeah, she had a tail like a lion's tail. It was big and fluffy on the end and slick hair, and she had it wrapped around her waist. She was wearing, and they were wearing clothes. And they said that our world's already been affected by watching your world. It said some of our clothing designs have become popular on their worlds. And they said designer jeans and white blouses and yoga pants. And the one said yoga pants, and she rubbed her hands on her legs and said, so soft.
Oh, man.
My God. I guess they really like our clothing here, I guess.
Where did they take you, Ronnie? Because you didn't stay in your room. You went on a journey.
Yeah, they took me through I asked them, I said, can you show me how you got here? Because I always heard that, if you get a chance to talk to ET, ask them how they got here. And I did. I said, can you please show me how you got here? Show me how you got here. And she goes, yes, it's quite simple. And she said, you just have to walk through this wall right here. And I said, and she goes, look, you can move through solid matter here. And they were correct. You can move through solid matter here.
Well, your physical body was still on the bed, so that would make a little bit of sense, right?
Right. It was. Now you have to understand that, like say something like a bed, like you have no weight. Like you can sit on the bed, you can feel the softness of the bed, or you can wade through the bed like a pond of water. It's like you have no weight, but it was like you could push your hand through the wall. It puts up a little bit of resistance, and you actually have to push just a little bit.
Okay.
And your hand will go right through the wall.
So you go through the wall, and where do you go?
I was walking through the wall, and I noticed that on my wall there's a glass, and it was hitting me right in the face, and I was afraid that it was going to break the glass and cut my face. So I was going really slow, and it seemed like they were frustrated, like, just go, you're all right, just go, hurry. You know, like we're on a time frame here. You know, and you're taking too long. Just go to the wall. You'll be fine. But anyway, I think they meant for me to move to the wall and look on the other side of the wall. But instead, I thought they meant just walk through the wall. I walked through the wall, and next thing you know, I fell into outer space, and I mean zero gravity. And I'm sitting out there floating away from this thing. I'm floating out in zero gravity. I'm doing this slow forward head flip. There's this alien planet off to my left, and you can see there's three major continents, small thin oceans. In the north and south pole of this thing are not icy, but more like frosty. I didn't see any clouds. I saw a mist that covered the whole thing, and it's a large desert area that they later told me was caused by a nuclear attack from somebody, and a small area of like jungle and stuff closer to the ocean. One major inland lake. So I was taking all this in, you know, knowing it's important. And in their sky, look, their sky and their universal, wherever this thing is at, it looks a lot like ours, but they're very close to the galactic center. You can actually see the black hole in the galactic center, and all the sun's trapped in this thing, being sucked into it. Like, and there's so many stars and so much light being cast from this galactic center that it can never get dark there at night like it does here. So I realized I'm looking at their world in the night, actually, the nighttime sky, and I can see clearly from outer space what's on the planet down below me, because there's so many stars shining from this galactic center. And I'm sitting here doing this whole flip, and I'm taking this thing back in. I'm doing it as I'm coming over my head over my feet. Now I'm looking back towards I came from. I said, all right, I want to look back and see what did I come out of. I looked, it's a black box. It's a completely square black box, no lights. Didn't look like a UFO craft or anything like it. It looked like a completely black box. And, you know, here recently, the jets off the coast of Florida caught on their gun camera a black box traveling through the sky. Have you seen that video? You know, when I seen that, I thought, you know, I know what that is.
Yeah.
It's a Stargate. There's a Stargate being moved, and somehow or another, the jet caught a picture of it, you know? And because that's exactly what it was.
Wow.
It was like, I walked out of a black box, and she told me it was like they're really worried about biocontamination, cross biocontamination of the worlds or whatever. So that's like, yeah, bugs and germs can't get through this thing. It makes it safe. You're safe from physical harm there. And they said, you know, the reason for our conversation was how to tell you guys that those guys are watching us. And they wanted my opinion on it. And, you know, and I thought about it briefly, and I thought, you know, and I said, what could I tell them? You know, I'm representing every daggum man, woman, and child on planet Earth.
Right.
And I thought, you know what? I said, the only thing that's really going to convince you guys that these guys are here is a global display of alien presence. And I said, that, you know what? That's what we need, a global display of alien presence. And they told me, said, you know, we'll pass this on to the others. They call them the others. We'll pass this on to the others.
Okay.
And I told them, man, we really need for you to make contact because we're in trouble here. You know, I said, we're running out of resources. We're overpopulated. And she said, you know, and one was the cat woman, she was a geneticist. And she told me, she said, you know, we could cure most of your diseases, but it would increase your suffering. In 5 years, you'd be so overpopulated that, you know, they won't allow us to do that because it increased your suffering.
Right.
You know. And I said, I know we're in trouble. We need your help. You know, we need your contact. And they said the people of our world want to contact the people of your world. They're demanding contact with the people of our world. And they're working out the means to do that as we speak. I just hope it happens within my lifetime. You know,
how long ago was this experience, that your out of body experience, your astral projection, where you saw their world plus you had this particular conversation? How long ago was that?
August 2017.
So that was 2.5 years ago. Have you had any, further contact with them to indicate that they may, in fact, be ready to give us that communication as world to world?
Nothing had really been going. Every now and then I see the UFO lights come on, and I try to get pictures if I can, but I just get these huge bright lit UFO lights that come on. It's almost like they're taking a flashbulb picture of me or something like that, and nothing really happened amazing until about 3 weeks ago. There was some weird stuff went on.
What happened 3 weeks ago? Tell us quickly what happened 3 weeks ago.
I had what what I assumed was a dream, but in the dream they told me that they give me some kind of vaccination, and I looked on my back of my left leg, and I looked, and there's nothing on my left leg, and she said, "No, it's on your body back there," and she said, "On your body back there," and I looked, and there was nothing on the body that I was in, and then there was another guy there. I think he introduced himself as Jonathan, and I was talking to him, and he said that they had that he was in line to be augmented like I was, and I'm like. I'm not sure what you're talking about, Anyway, it goes on that I was like in a clone body. It was like they had pulled me out of here and put me in something somewhere else. It looked like me. It felt like me.
Right.
I thought it was me, but this appeared to be an alien planet. This village that we were at looked like it was 1960 houses. They had picket fences. They had white houses that looked 60s style. And she even said, said we designed this, way back years ago.
Ronnie, what's the picture that you drew that has what almost looks to be like a praying mantis figure?
Okay, in 2010, when the mother craft flew over me, I actually have a video of this craft, and I've been zooming in, trying to clear it up, and getting pictures of it. And on top of this thing is like a 40-foot praying mantis-looking creature. And this is a real deal. I mean, I've got the video. I've shared the video. And other people have seen it. And people have studied the video and said, no, I haven't tampered with it or anything like that. But hiding in the lurking shadows of this thing, there's this 40-foot tall creature, and it's not a really, really, really clear picture, but it's clear enough you can see what it is. And I even showed it to a zoologist, and he said, he goes, what? Where did you get Where did you get this? He goes, I know every creature on the planet, and I've never seen anything like that.
Wow.
I said, well, you wouldn't believe me if I told you that it was on the surface of a UFO that recorded from a mile away, and it's probably 40 feet tall. And he didn't want to talk to me after that.
Yeah, right. So, what again? We're going to have to wrap up here, Ronnie. But you've had some unbelievable experiences, and they, from your first sightings to your out of body experience, it kept getting more in depth and more detailed. What do you think the end game is here? I mean, first of all, again, I ask why you, and secondly, what do you think these aliens are out to do, and why are they here?
Well, when I talked to these guys, they said that these aren't the guys that have been here. They didn't say that they were the only aliens. In fact, they said the opposite. They said they found us because our nuclear testing sent light and radiation to one of their planets, which is like you could call it a parallel universe, but I think maybe it's a fold in the fabric of space, where they're near us, but maybe we can't see them from our telescopes and stuff. Like, somehow or another, they're very close to us. It's not like they're millions of light years away. And they found out when they went to war with these other guys, and one of them, these guys blew up a large portion of their planet, and she said that's where the desert area on her planet came from, was at the war they were in with these guys, and they finally defeated them. Or they maybe not defeated them, but they're still fighting them. But they found us because of our nuclear testing, and then when they discovered us, they wanted to make sure that we wasn't in alliance with the other guys that had attacked them. And so they observed us for many, many years, trying to figure out, make sure we wasn't in alliance. And I'm not so certain that the attack wasn't launched from here. And I've even thought that maybe that's what maybe the pyramids are weapons they use to attack the world.
Did you ever ask them that question, if the pyramids were involved?
No, I want to, though, because they said they were watching us closely to make sure that we weren't allies. She said they know now that we're not allies, or maybe we didn't have anything to do with the attack from, and that they're excited. They want to meet us. The people of the world want to meet us, and they enjoy our clothing. And they're looking forward to meeting us, and I hope it happens soon.
I have to ask you about the one other picture too, because I think as you were describing the world that you saw, I didn't have this picture to show, but you drew a picture of the world, right? Is that you floating by the world? Is that what that is?
Yeah, that's me floating outside the box that they had placed over my bedroom that allowed them to come in and talk to us and stuff, and that's the box that I had. When I walked out of the box, I was floating in outer space right next to the world. Now I didn't have to breathe.
Gotcha.
I didn't feel hot or cold, and it was amazing. But I did start feeling sick to my stomach from doing all them head flips, man.
Wow.
And finally, when she pulled me back in, I was like, thank God. Okay, I had seen all I wanted to see from there, but but there's a lot of planets in the sky from where their universe is or where their world is. And she talked like it's not just her world. The Catwoman and her are probably from two different worlds. It's kind of like a federation of planets.
Yeah, yeah. Do you feel threatened by this at all? I mean, do you think there's any malicious intent and we should be worried?
I was at first until after. Since they've made contact, I feel a whole lot better about them now. And at one point, I got really up close because I thought, if this is a demon, because I've heard religious people say, these are demons, man. You're playing with demons.
Yeah.
I got right in her face and looked in her big, huge, and they weren't black eyes. They were blue. I mean, shiny blue, and they had these white specks in them, and they were amazingly pretty, and it freaked her out that I was really close to her. And she did mention that I should tell everybody that when the people of our world and the people there meet, I guess it's the first rule of contact is they don't want any physical contact without verbal consent. They don't want you grabbing them or shaking their hands or holding them or running at them or anything like that. They want you to ask first. That's all they've asked. That's like the first rule of contact. And she did tell me to pass that on.
Wow.
So,
well, we're out of time here, but where can people get your book, which details your whole story?
I really wanted to get this thing on paper. And and there's still stuff. And the thing about an ebook is I can go in and add chapters to it. So whenever something happens, I add stuff to it. So, and it's called the Ronnie Dawson UFO Story. It's on. You can get it at Barnes and Noble. You can get it at Amazon. You can get it at Walmart. You can order it at Walmart, and they'll ship it to Walmart.
Is it an ebook or is it a hard copy book?
It was an ebook, but I didn't know that Barnes and Noble started printing copies.
Oh, I see. They actually print it for you if you want it printed.
Yeah, they printed copies of it, and I didn't even have any printed copies. I had to buy my mother one at full cost, and I want to tell everybody that if I'm at a conference or something like that, and you have paid the money and got one of these printed ebooks, wave that thing at me. I will come to you and I will sign your book for you.
That's generous of you, Ronnie. Promise me that you're going to stay in contact with Slick Eddie and let him know if you've got more contact or other things you need to share with us, that you let us know so that we can bring you back and continue the conversation.
Absolutely.
Your story is amazing. I'm hoping that you're getting some traction and that more people are starting to take these things seriously, because I think that, like I said earlier, we've turned some corners, but I don't know that we've turned enough. But it does seem to be generally increasing acceptance of these things, and maybe even more curiosity, which I think is a great move in the right direction. I would imagine you feel that way as well.
Oh, absolutely. And, and every chance I get to catch some physical proof or physical evidence, I go for it. I try to keep a camera with me, and I try to catch something so that people can believe it. And I know it's a whole lot easier to believe when you got some physical evidence.
And what's your YouTube channel so people can check out your videos?
It's just a Ronnie Dawson YouTube channel. I've got like 1,260,000 views on it.
Oh, wow. That's great.
I've got all sorts of UFO video. Everything I've caught and captured is on there. So
great.
I ain't holding anything back.
Terrific. Ronnie, thanks so much for being here tonight. It took us too long to get you back on, but we appreciate your time.
Thank you, JV. It's been an honor and a pleasure.
Amy from our chat room is on the line. Hey, Amy, welcome to the program.
Hey, JV, thank you.
You said you have a story to share with us, something that happened very, very recently. What happened? Tell us about it.
Yeah, it was Sunday. We went to the funeral home over where I live, and as you know, our aunt died. And Thursday morning, so we went to the funeral home, and we talked to this lady. She allowed us to go to the view room. And while we were talking to her, Tommy and I kept looking at Norma. That's my aunt's name.
Okay.
And so I was staring at her. I looked. I said, Tommy. Her eyes just opened. Shut up, Penny. Yes.
What?
Her eyes were open very little, just like when you're, waking up from morning. Her eyes were open. Just a smidge. Then she closed them right back.
And you both saw this?
Yes.
Wow.
Even the woman did, too.
The woman who was the worked at the funeral parlor saw it too?
Yep.
Wow. I mean, that would kind of freak me out. What'd you do?
Nothing. I just stood there like a...
Were you just stunned? Is that what it was?
Yeah. Yeah. Tommy was like, hey, I got an idea for you. How about you turn off the lights and let's see if she'll turn them on? The woman said, oh, I don't think I want to do that.
Wow.
Yeah. It was shocking when both of us seen her eyes open too.
Yeah, I mean that's certainly not something you would expect. And even if you're going to see some type of like spirit type of activity, you wouldn't expect that spirit activity to manipulate the body that's there. So that's weird for so many reasons.
Oh yeah, yeah. I've never experienced anything like that. Even though I've had experiences, but nothing like that.
No, I've never heard anything like that. So after that happened, was this before you had a service at the funeral home? Or what was happening at the funeral home at the time?
No, this was the day before the funeral. The funeral was yesterday. And it was Sunday when it happened.
Wow. Well, that is a pretty incredible story. I appreciate you sharing that. Sorry about the loss of your aunt, however. But wow, I mean, have you given it any thought since? And have you had anything maybe at home where you felt like might be connected, like a sense that maybe your aunt is visiting in that respect, or not?
Tommy earlier, before we left the office over where a friend of mine works, Tommy was like, I think Norma's here, because I can feel her. I looked at her weird, like, I don't feel nothing.
Wow. I don't know what to say to that experience, because I've never heard anything like that, and it sure as heck is creepy. And I don't want it to be creepy, but it just kind of is, isn't it?
Well, no, not really.
You don't feel it's creepy?
No, not when you know them. It's not creepy because you know who it is.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I still think it'd probably creep me out, but I'm not sure. But man, I thank you for sharing the story. And again, sorry for your loss. That's never an easy time for anyone, regardless of who you lose. But wow, that's quite a story. Yeah. Please let us know if anything else happens. Like maybe you'll see your aunt visit you, or maybe you'll hear her, or whatever. I mean, that's a strange enough occurrence that I'm wondering if there's going to be a follow up to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I told her, I said, don't be a stranger. You're welcome to call or show up.
Yeah. Wow. All right, Amy. Again, thank you for being part of our chat room and listening, and thanks for sharing that story.
You're welcome.
All right. I guess that's kind of does it for tonight. That was a very interesting story, both from Ronnie and also Amy's story there at the end. I'm not sure what I would do. Having spent a considerable amount of time at funeral homes in the last few years, I'm not sure what I would do if I saw that.
Beyond Reality Paranormal is hosted by J.V. Johnson and produced by Orion Palmer and Slick Eddie Edwards. Like us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please consider supporting the program either through your podcast platform, click on the link in the description, or on Patreon at Joha Productions. If you'd like to be a guest on Beyond Reality Paranormal, or you have a recommendation for a guest, contact our producer, Slick Eddie Edwards. Eddie is spelled with a Y at slickeddieedwards@gmail.com.